The 2023 NBA season is right around the corner, which means it is time for my annual preseason predictions, a tradition on this channel where I rank each team in each conference 15 through 1 based on how I think they will finish the regular season. This is part 2, aka the Western Conference. Last video, part 1, was the Eastern Conference. You do not have to watch them in order, but I like to upload them in that order. Without wasting any more time, let's get going. As the title of the video implies, and as I just said, we will be ranking the Western Conference here, so starting with 15th place, I'm going to give it to the San Antonio Spurs. It is not a secret that the Spurs have already thrown in the towel and are waiting for the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes to begin, but there is still an entire NBA season that must be played first, and these guys on the court are not going to let themselves be walked over. Veterans Doug McDermott and Jakob Poeltl will provide consistent production for a few months at least, but it won't take long for them to be either moved or just simply benched. The real thing to watch here is the 8 first round picks on the roster, 24 years old and younger. Keldon Johnson is expected to lead the charge for most of the way, but I'm also paying close attention to Devin Vassell and Joshua Primo, as well as rookies Jeremy Sochan, Malachi Branham, and Blake Wesley. There is a lot of potential on this roster, and I know Wembanyama being added to the mix would make this team really exciting, but this year, they're not going to be very fun to watch. Finishing 14th, I have the Houston Rockets. Another young team full of potential, but with several veterans who are at least useful. Firstly though, Jalen Green is the guy to watch on this team. His rookie year had its flashes, but as a whole, he didn't really do any one thing particularly great. But the foundation is there. He can handle the ball, create, and shoot, and there is no reason he can't be a good defender. He's extremely athletic and quick. I am really excited to see how this offseason may have further developed him. Another young guy I really like on Houston is Alperen Sengun. Slow and unathletic, but very smart and strong. He could blossom into a Diet Nikola Jokic this season with his increased role, hopefully as a starter, although I will admit we're one game into the year as of me recording this and he came off the bench, so I don't know if that's going to be a full year thing or just a temporary thing. And then the last guy I want to talk about is the 3rd overall pick, Jabari Smith Jr., who will get plenty of opportunity to prove himself to be a Rookie of the Year candidate on this tanking team. There are plenty of other young guys to pay attention to. I didn't even mention Kevin Porter Jr., but I am curious how things will go for the veterans. Sure, Eric Gordon, Derek Favors, who was actually cut since I wrote that, so forget him, and Boban Marjanovic may help slightly in the win column, but at the end of the day, finishing 14th versus 15th isn't anything to celebrate. So will Houston trade these guys for some picks to tank, or will they fight and try to make that play-in spot? I think they're going to trade them and tank. Next up is the last tanking team. There's actually a lot more tanking going on in the West this year than the East, which is not how it usually goes. Tanking, but not by design, finishing 13th, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. I say not by design because they were going to shoot for a playoff run this year, but unfortunately, number 2 overall pick Chet Holmgren injured himself in a summer showcase for fun game. So they're going to be doling out a squad of young guys who are tired of losing but probably will still lose a lot. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the potential star to follow most closely throughout 2023. Some NBA YouTubers have already begun the Shai trade rumor mill, citing the fact that he is a borderline all-star who is being forced to endure tank after tank after tank in Oklahoma, and yeah, that is true. It would be cool to see Shai competing in the playoffs, but I don't think that's going to happen this year, and I don't think he's going to get traded this year either. The other guy on the team I'm also really excited to continue watching as they develop is Josh Giddey. The Aussie has shown that he can do it all on the court, he just doesn't do a lot of anything. In this year, his second season, I expect him to be much more productive and be one of those guys who is on triple-double watch pretty much any night. I expect him to help many fantasy rosters. Sadly, beyond these two, the role guys range from okay to not even an NBA player. Lou Dort is a scrappy utility guy who does a lot of little things well, which is very nice. Alexei Pokusevski has shown flashes of being a unicorn, but he lacks consistency. And Jeremiah Robinson Earl is their best bet at center, which is not a good thing. I wanted to hype up the Thunder in 2023, but I'm just not feeling it after the Chet Holmgren injury. Next up in Nowhere Land, finishing 12th, I have the Utah Jazz. The 2023 Jazz look very odd for the time being. This past offseason, they finally opted to blow up their roster as they traded away their best trio of players in Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and Bojan Bogdanovic. But oddly enough, that is where the yard sale ended. At least as of me speaking into this microphone right here, right now, they still are a roster full of win-now veterans who have no reason to lose. Their best player to watch, I think, will be Colin Sexton, even though he's coming off the bench at least so far, one game in. This is going to be the year where he tries to prove doubters wrong. Because sure, Cleveland has had a lot of success without him, but myself and many others are confident Sexton was not holding the team back. It's just unfortunate that he got hurt when he did, because the Cavs took off pretty much right when he went down. I expect him to have a comeback player type of the year sort of season. I'm talking an efficient 20 plus points, 6 assists a night good. Beyond the young star though, there is no shortage in potential double-digit been there done that scores. Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, Lauri Markkanen, Malik Beasley, Kelly Olynyk, Talon Horton-Tucker, Jared Vanderbilt, and Nikhil Walker-Alexander make up a terrific cast of role guys. This team is too good to be a bottom dweller. So they're not tanking, they're just retooling. At 11th, just barely missing the play-in tournament, I have the LA Lakers. Yep, I think the Lakers will miss the postseason for the second year in a row. A stunning result, but I thought long and hard about this, so let us dive in. LeBron James is still amazing at basketball. Them missing the playoffs is not going to be his fault, just like how Shea is not the reason the Thunder will miss, Sexton is not the reason the Jazz will miss, LeBron is not the reason the Lakers are going to miss. It's unfortunate because that's what the mainstream media is going to harp on most of the time, but I'm not going to harp on that. Some things to watch this year with LeBron is that he is going to break into the top 5 all-time in assists for a career this year, which is going to be cool to watch. He's also potentially going to break into the top 4 in triple-doubles all-time for a career. And am I forgetting something? Oh yeah, he's going to become the NBA's all-time leading scorer this year. More than MJ, Kobe, Wilt, or Kareem. LeBron will be on the top, and that will be a big night when it happens. It's just going to be kind of sad that they're going to lose that game, most likely. Beyond the King, though, who else plays for the Lakers? First, you have Anthony Davis, aka Mr. Uncomfortable. Don't count on him to play 50 games and don't expect him to play the 5 because it's just too hard. Then you also have Russell Westbrook, one of the least likable players in the league right now. I expect him to grab a lot of rebounds, miss a lot of shots, and commit many turnovers, but I also expect him to refuse to take any blame for anything. Beyond this trio, who else is even on the roster? Well, they have Austin Reeves, who is a feel-good story, but he's not going to move the needle. Patrick Beverley is on the team, if you can believe that. He and Russell Westbrook are going to be fun to pay attention to. Kendrick Nunn is making a long-awaited return, so no one really knows what to expect from him. And Thomas Bryant and Lonnie Walker can be decent role guys, but they're going to be counted on to do a little too much this year, I think. And that is pretty much it. The rest of the roster is barely NBAers. Jeannie Buss is not a good owner. I'll try to be less mean going forward. Finishing 10th, give me the Portland Trail Blazers. For as long as most of us can remember, the Blazers have always had the same problem. They score a lot but defend very little. But this was always primarily due to their guard duo, their best duo. And this offseason though, they actually made a huge addition to try to address this weakness. Jeremy Grant is back on a team playing for something. This superstar role guy, NBA nerds' favorite player, can defend 4 positions both on the ground and in the air better than just about anyone. But he is not just a defensive specialist, his offensive game is very well rounded, both inside and out, and he can create shots for himself. The addition of Grant puts them into the playoff race. But he isn't the face of the team, that would be Damian Lillard. 2022 was a year to forget for Lillard, shooting the ball at the worst rate of his career and missing over half the games due to injury. But perhaps the offseason did wonders to his body and he will come back as strong and effective as ever. Beyond these two, Anthony Simons, Yusuf Nurkic, Josh Hart, Gary Payton, a newcomer, and Drew Eubanks will all provide reliable production, and some of them will even be useful on the defensive end. The Blazers are going to be more competitive this year than they have the past couple of years, but I don't expect them to be too competitive in this brutal Western Conference. Next up in 9th and making the play-in, but not the playoffs, the clear distinction must be made there. I have the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, the Kings will argue this ends their postseason drought, but technically, sure, but in reality, no, because they won't actually play in the playoffs. The Kings have a lot of offensive firepower this year. Many guys I do really like. Domantas Sabonis especially. He gets overlooked by many, but he is an efficient 20-point, 12-rebound, 5-assist per game threat who can put the ball on the floor and create better than most. And he's going to lift the Kings on offense this year. Then you have De'Aaron Fox, who's looking to finally shed the label of being a young potential star guard who doesn't help his team win. Kind of like Colin Sexton. With Sabonis and the rest of the new cast of effective role guys, I expect Fox to finally break through and play some meaningful basketball in the postseason this year. And the role guys on this team, I think are awesome. They have Kevin Huerter, Rashawn Holmes, Harrison Barnes, and Malik Monk. That's a lot of potential right there. And then you have the 2 lottery picks, Keegan Murray and year 2 of Davion Mitchell. The Kings are going to be a tough out for anyone in 2023, but you probably noticed their defense isn't going to be that good, and yeah, that's kind of the biggest problem here. Finishing 8th, give me the Dallas Mavericks. Despite the fact that just about every NBA team would choose Luka Doncic to be their young player to build a roster around, Mark Cuban and the Mavericks have been abysmal at doing this. Luka is amazing. He does everything to anyone. I know I was hyping up LeBron earlier, but Luka is the present king of the basketball world. It's a shame the team is so poorly constructed around him. The big name addition this past offseason to be the running mate to Luka is Christian Wood. A solid athletic center, but come on. Wood is not even going to average 20 a game, and he's a bad defensive player. Plus, on occasions, he has been reported to have a very foul attitude that rubs off on his teammates, especially in the locker room. That's not a good thing. Wood is not even expected to be their starting 5 this year, so that means the actual number 2 on the team is going to be Tim Hardaway Jr., who is an average long-range shooter who shoots a lot. Beyond those guys, they have Spencer Dinwiddie, who played very well last year, but I worry about him matching that production this year. Then you have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a fine 3-and-D guy, but that's it. That's pretty much it. And Davis Bertans, who fell off. They did add JaVale McGee though. JaVale McGee is sneaky good. But again, I don't think he's good enough to make this Mavericks team a championship contender. They're gonna barely make the playoffs this year, and that's a shame. Okay, from this point on, it gets really tough to rank the West. Honestly, I could see any of 7 through 1 finishing at number 1 and finishing at 7. And what's amazing about that is 1 obviously is the number 1 team in the West, 1 is a play-in team. But that's just how jumbled up and how competitive these 7 teams are. So please don't be offended if I rank your team at 7. They're awesome, and I could see them going number 1. But I have to put an order together. I can't just give out 1A, B, C, D, and like that. So here we go. Finishing 7th, I'm going with the Memphis Grizzlies. I love watching Ja Morant and company play. They are one of the most fun, explosive offensive teams in the league, and it kills me to rank them so low. But at the end of the day, they just did not get any better this offseason, and just about everyone in front of them did. Ja is going to be Ja. For better or worse, he will play like a dark horse MVP candidate, but I worry about his long-term game. He already dealt with injuries a little bit last year. That's not going to be a good thing if that carries on into this year. Desmond Bane is the team's best shooter, and I think he's awesome. Dylan Brooks is good, and sometimes he has his great nights, but most of the time he ball hogs a bit too much. Steven Adams is cool, but is a 0 on the offensive end, minus offensive rebounds, which I guess is astronomically important, so okay, he's not a 0, but he doesn't do enough in my opinion. And then they have more guys, but as a whole, I don't think the Grizzlies are good enough to beat the teams in front of them. I don't think I explained that very well, but still, Grizzlies 7, let's move on. Finishing 6th, I have the Golden State Warriors. Okay, let's hear the hater alert alarms going off. I have the Dubs finishing 6th, and yes, I know, they just won the championship last year, and they're running back most of the same team. So what's the deal? There's a lot of good on this roster. The reason I am ranking them so low is because I do not think the Warriors are going to be 100% locked in throughout the entire regular season. You could call it a 100 level IQ tactical resting, or you could call it looking ahead and underestimating their opponents. But I think it's going to be a blend of the two. The older guys, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, they're going to do what we know they can do. And the younger guys who have been playing awesome, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, and then the really young guys, James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody, those are the ones who I think are going to be a little more motivated to help the team finish to the top of the 1 seed. But I don't know. I don't think they have it in them. Draymond Green just had a whole issue when he punched Jordan Poole in the face, which is a whole thing. And that might spoil his attitude in the locker room. All we can do is wait and see and watch how that goes. The Warriors could be number 1. They are good enough to be number 1. But I think they're going to take the regular season easy and potentially too easy and slip into the play-in. But according to this list, I have them at 6. Finishing 5th, give me the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right. The Wolves are going to be one of the most fun teams to watch in 2023. They already have so much offensive firepower, being Karl Anthony Towns, who is a top 4 center in the NBA, and he is without a doubt the best shooting center the league has ever had. Beyond him, they also have Anthony Edwards, who's going to be a scoring machine both on the attack and with a soft shooting touch. And then also D'Angelo Russell, who is a good offensive piece to lead it all. Those 3 guys alone will put up 70 a night. But historically, Minnesota's biggest problem has been their defense, but this past offseason, they fixed it. Rudy Gobert is the best defensive center in the league. His rim protection skills are unmatched, and though he gets clowned on it a lot, the reality is he's a very good on-the-ground defensive player. The problem in Utah is that team was really bad at defense. So when Gobert was a step late to make up for someone else's blunder, he ended up being the one who had the shot made on him, therefore he was the guy you'd see in the videos. Gobert is a good defensive player. Of course, the Wolves are not a good defensive team, so is it going to be more of the same? I don't think so. I think the Wolves have so much more offensive firepower. Other additions that are worth mentioning are Kyle Anderson and Taurean Prince, who are good wing defenders. I think the Wolves may lead the NBA in scoring this year, and I think they're going to be a good defensive team too. So 5 honestly might be too low, but that's where I got them. Dropping a bit from last year, my favorite team, I'm giving 4th place to the Phoenix Suns. There is a lot of noise surrounding the Suns right now for a few reasons. Of course, we have the embarrassing situation where they lost by 1,000,000 points in Game 7 as the home team in a game they should have won. Then you have the whole DeAndre Ayton contract holdout situation that was pretty grueling to sit through. I mean, it went how everyone thought it was going to go, but Ayton's not happy about it, so, that sucks. And then you have Robert Sarver being a horrible person and dragging down the whole morale of the entire organization. And then as a little cherry on top, Jay Crowder is no-showing the team because he's demanding a trade. Good luck with that, Crowder. But let's throw all that away and actually look at what remains in front of us. I don't think the Suns really got any good players in trades or off-season signings, at least no big needle movers. They had some issues that they just didn't really address, but they still have Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and DeAndre Ayton. Those guys are pretty much what got them to where they got last year, and they're all back, and 4 of those 5 are young and getting better. Then off the bench, they have Dario Saric returning from an injury. Then they have Landry Shamet, who is a great shooter. Then newcomers Dwayne Washington Jr., who I really like, and Damian Lee, who I really like. Of course, they also still have Cameron Payne. I don't think that's a needle mover. I think it's a bad thing. But I digress. They had a lot of success with him, so they should still have a lot of success with him, I hope. I really do like the Suns. I think they are going to be really good. I don't think they get enough media attention ever. They made it to the finals, and people still were just thinking ahead to next year about how they weren't going to make it again next year. It wouldn't shock me if the Suns once again are at the top of the West, but there are 3 teams I think added too much talent in the summer for me to put them over. One of those teams, in third, I have the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets last year, without 2 of their 3 best players, managed to finish 6th in the brutal Western Conference. And this year they are back. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. have proven they are efficient 20+ per game scorers who can create shots as good as anyone. Porter especially, I'm eager to see out on the court given his age and athleticism. He should be on the rise still. Who knows what kind of player he's going to be. But of course, we cannot ignore the 2-time MVP in the room. Nikola Jokic is unstoppable, and he's still going to be unstoppable. His combination of unlimited offensive skills and his elite defense at his size and length are just unheard of. He put up 8 assists a game last year, dishing out the ball to Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green, and Facundo Campazzo. Imagine what he is going to do with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, plus newcomer sharpshooters Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They're going to be good. They're going to be very, very good. In fact, as I'm saying this out loud, I'm thinking they're going to be number 1, but hey, I have them at 3. I'm sure I have a good reason for it. Let's move on. Finishing ahead of the Nuggets, in second, I have the LA Clippers. The Clippers may be the deepest quality team in all of the NBA, minus the center position. Their roster costs almost $200 million, which is an NBA record by a pretty penny. They have, and I am not joking, 12 guys on their roster who are capable of putting up at least 10 points a night while playing good to elite defense. This all starts with their top 2, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, 2 superstars whose abilities are matched by very few. Now I do worry about their injury history, especially with Kawhi Leonard, who has now missed 2 entire seasons for mysterious reasons. But if they are both on, they are a problem for the entire league. Now I want to get into this elite supporting cast. We have Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard, Robert Covington, Reggie Jackson, Nicholas Batum, Ivica Zubac, John Wall, Amir Coffey, and Terrence Mann. Oh my goodness, there isn't enough minutes to go around. I think this team is going to be awesome, but what I think is going to hold them back is I think they're going to have issues with health, and I don't think they have enough depth at the center position. In fact, I know they don't have enough depth at the center position. They only have Zubac. If they can fix the center thing and get lucky with their 2 main guys, they're going to be the best team in the league and potentially win 70 stinking games. But I don't have them at number 1. Who is that number 1 team? Have you been keeping track at home? Let's all say it together. Finally, finishing at the very top, first place in the Western Conference is the New Orleans Pelicans. Yes, give me your booze and Rotten Tomatoes. I was expecting it. Alright guys, the Pelicans are amazing. Last year, they acquired CJ McCollum, and that really began to make things click down in Louisiana, because McCollum brought to them outside scoring and team leadership they had never had. His combination of shooting and playmaking, believe it or not, he's a great point guard, I think shocked many who knew him previously as just Damian Lillard's Robin. You know, the Batman Robin thing, that's what I was going for there. AKA the catch and shoot number 2 and nothing more. But McCollum is so much more than that. Combined with borderline all-stars, Brandon Ingram, who can create shots on anyone, and Jonas Valanciunas, who is a big rebounder, especially on the offensive glass, the team is just an offensive powerhouse. And then defensively, none of those guys are bad, but they also have Herbert Jones and Jose Alvarado, who are great defensive players, even though they're both so young. Then you have some role guys, Devontae Graham, who can shoot threes a little bit and play make, Larry Nance Jr., he's alright, and Jackson Hayes can sometimes dunk the ball, and I adore that, but I think I'm forgetting someone. Along with all of that, they have Zion Williamson. His combination of strength, speed, athleticism, paired with his incredibly high offensive IQ, make him a unicorn. I know, another unicorn in the league, what do you know? And he's unstoppable. Zion could average 30 points per game this year on a 65% field goal, and that would not shock me even a little bit. This team is going to be a problem for everyone, but let me explain to you why I think they truly are going to be at the very top of the West. It's because this team is young and this team is hungry. They are not thinking, oh, we need to rest and focus on the future. They are thinking win every single night, and that is why I have them at the very top of the West. That is why they are going to win more games than anyone else in the entire NBA East or West this season. 2023 is the year of the Pelican. So there you have it, my predictions for 2023. Please let me know what you disagree with, as if I have to ask. But also let me know if I gave a controversial take that you actually do agree with. Please comment, like, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.